I'm back. Let me share screen again.
Okay, let's.
You
I'll
see my
start
screen?
sharing my screen. Okay, wait, not yet.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, cool. So this is basically Scala. You have a Scala build. Okay, cool. So can you just open the build.sbt?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll just sending you the dependencies for Spark. So what it will do is, we'll discuss it.
I'll let you control my screen, so it will be.
No, that's okay. You only. It's not a big task, so you can actually do it. It's not a
Okay. Sure.
big deal. Yeah. So I'll just send you. Yeah, I've sent you over Slack. Just copy this and paste it in the build.spt.
So I'll put it in.
No, don't remove it. Don't remove it. Let it be there, just below that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you can stack
Yeah.
the different builds on top of one another.
Yeah. So no, okay. So let me explain you this file. So basically, what happens is the name is basically the name of the project. The version is the specific to the project, and the Scala version is the version of the Scala you want to use for this particular project. Correct. And the below one, the library dependencies, is the one which is not present in Scala and you want to use it in the project. For example, in this case, we want to use some libraries of Spark, which is not a native library in Scala. That's why it is called library dependencies. Okay.
I see.
So, yeah. So right now, what you have to do is you have to go to build in the top.
Okay.
And do rebuild project.
Oh, okay.
So if you see in the bottom, you will see a process will start and it will try to download the Spark jars for this project. Okay.
I see. Oh, it's completed.
That's pretty quick. I'm not sure if. Okay. No. Okay. I forgot one step. If you see in the top right corner, there is a hovering thing over here. Right corner. Right.
Oh, okay.
This red with blue. The small. What do I call? Just inside the build.sbt, if you see there's a small hovering thing on the top right.
Here you can
little more
screen.
Okay, I'll control it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm still very new to the interface. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, not a problem. So exactly, I mean, how to do it, I'm not really sure. You can control. Okay, it's enabled. Okay, so basically, I'm talking about this. You are controlling. Okay.
Oh, where did you get that?
If you this particular thing, right? It was there.
How did you get that? I didn't see it before. You just like click on something and disappear. So
no, it is there only.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the first time, so not a problem. So if you see, if you hover over it, it will say load SBT changes. Okay. So until you click this particular button, the project is not able to find whatever things you have added actually. So that was the problem. That's why it built so fast. Okay. So let's just rebuild it and see. Now, if you see in the bottom, it's actually importing this project. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this probably might take a bit. So let's start from my screen. Okay. So let's not waste more time over here.
Sure. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll let you to share the screen.
Yeah. Correct.
Here, let me do it. Stop share. Okay.
So let me share my terminal. Okay. Yeah. Can you see my terminal?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Hello.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay. So okay. Just for my information.
Hello?
Yeah, Jen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, how much comfortable are you with the terminal operations?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Well, I mean, I'm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So basically, if you see, I've downloaded this particular thing over here, right? This Spark bin Hadoop. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just untar it. I'll ping you the commands if you need. So this particular thing contains all the jars of Spark which is needed to run. Okay. So now if you see, it is untarred into this particular directory. So if you go to the directory, you will find a particular directory called bin. In this one. Okay. Now if you do bin, see, these are the particular things which you can run with Spark. Okay. And now the best way to practice Scala syntax or Spark is the Spark shell.
Oh,
Okay. So
I have a
now
question. So in my IntelliJ, I think there is a Scala shell. So is it similar? Oh no, SBT.
Yeah. So correct. So now what? Okay, the SBT shell will help you run Scala commands only, but this particular thing can help you run Scala as well as Spark.
I
Okay.
see. Yes.
So it's better to practice over here so that this is what you're going to do in production, right? Okay. So I'll just show you a demo. So if you do Spark shell. So it will launch a small Spark, what do you call it? A Spark job with the master as a local. As in, it is something similar to a standalone with client mode configuration. Okay. Yeah, let it start. It will take maybe a minute. Yep. So now if you can see, this Spark job has started, and now we can see that we are using this version of Spark. So this is the latest version, the latest stable version of Spark. All right. Okay. So for example, let's see if you have seen Scala syntax, you can print something like, let's say, Jane, right? So this is how you can practice Scala syntax actually. So it's pretty easy. Got it. So whatever you want to try, you can actually paste it over here and see if it is giving some error. Like, let's say I want to try something like this, but it is giving me error. What is the error? The error is this value is not found, right? So that way you can actually practice Spark things as well as Scala things here. Okay, without any other configuration or anything. This particular tar file is sufficient enough. Okay. Okay. So let's start with other Scala syntaxes. So okay, I will also share this screen. Let me share my desktop actually. Can you see my Sublime text?
Yes.
Okay. So very basic things. Let's quickly go through it. Okay. So what happens? There are two ways to declare a variable in Scala. One is val and one is var. So val is basically it's a static thing. Okay. Now if you paste here, you can see that so x is having a value of 2, which is a type integer. Now this integer is automatically derived from whatever value you're giving over here. So Scala has this functionality that it will automatically derive the type of the data type you're giving it. Okay, that is one property of Scala. Okay, now if you say x is equal to 5, it will give you an error because we cannot assign another value to the same variable declared with val. So that is the property of val. Okay, something, it's basically like a final, or maybe you can say something like it's static value. Okay. Now let's say in case you want to reuse the variable, right? If you say var x is equal to 2, now if you do x is equal to
Oh, hello. Hello.
my network is slow or what?
Hello, Sanket, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually waiting for your voice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I think
Yeah, so I mean,
I just have quick word. I think I got
there was a network.
the values.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I got the val and var. Can I quickly go through the
cool.
note yours to see if things that I don't know?
Sure. I'll actually send this in the Google Drive. But okay, let's
Oh,
discuss over here itself, right?
yeah, I have that part already. Method. Yeah, I think I have method also. Class. Yes, I'm good. While loop. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. If
So these are very basic things,
yeah.
which I was planning that you might use it to solve some problems which I
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yes, if else, okay. Can I see the array circle at least? Can you talk about it?
Sure.
I don't know this part.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, if you see in Scala, there are various type of lists. One is array, one is sequence, there is list, and there is vectors, and almost all of them perform in the same manner. Okay, so if you consider, so syntax might vary a little, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the overall logic is same. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain you for one. Let's say I'll explain you for sequence. Okay, so let's
Mm-hmm.
say we have a sequence called this sequence of A, which consists of three integers, right? Now you see one property of here is if I say this, right? Okay. Now what is the difference between these two?
You
A
get
sequence of,
the value of
in
C.
most of the correct. So in the first array, if you see, it has seen that all the variables are having the similar type. So it has assigned int.
Mm-hmm.
But in the second case, there are mixed variables, right? Different
Mm-hmm.
data types. So it has taken any. So you can actually leverage this to keep any kind of data if you want in a list or a sequence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, this will be used in data frames. So in what happens in a data frame is you can consider each row as a list or as a sequence, which is actually called a row. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
there you can have multiple types of data types. So this particular sequence A, the second one, is actually a valid row of a data frame. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see more today itself. And okay, so let's say if you want to add element to a sequence, then you will have with 4 added to the first one. Okay, now one thing to note over here is sequence or array or list, all of these things are immutable. So what does that mean is once you okay, can you hear me, Jane?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. So once you declare this, this is actually final in its memory. So even if you add one more variable to it, it won't use the same list again. It will actually return a new list. You're getting it?
Mm.
So
So
basically, yeah.
sorry, I just want to quickly have questions. So list is immutable, but sequence immutable, right?
Yes, everything is immutable. So if you have a use case where you want to actually use the same list again and again, the best way is to use a mutable array buffer. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this is why I've kept it at the end. So basically, what this does is if you import this one,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have a name of as started with the empty array. Okay, now you see I haven't declared a new. So okay, let me quickly. If you see in this particular case, I'm assigning it to a new list. Okay. If you
Mm-hmm.
print sequence A over here, it will just give you 3 elements, not 4. Correct. But for the mutable one, if you keep on adding, let's say I'm adding 3 elements over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now if I print name, you will
Mm-hmm.
find, see, you find all the 3 elements in that particular list. Okay. Any doubts over here?
Yes. Yes, I understand.
Cool. Okay. So, okay. Now, another way is to how do you access a value of a list? So, for any case, just take the list and put a bracket, and let's say you want to access the value of first one. You get this second one that way. Okay, it's that simple. The another way is just to write apply. But yeah, just there are different ways to access it, but it's the same thing. Okay.
Oh, sorry. The name is the list name, right?
Yeah, is the name of the list. It's a little
Oh.
confusing, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think on the Scala side, to start with, this is good enough.
Yes.
And okay. And you would know about the loops, right? I mean,
Actually,
loops will be.
that one I know, but I have a question for the syntax. So down there, I see that you have the syntax of plus plus together. I'm not sure what is that mean.
Oh, okay. This one.
Yes.
Okay. So what? Okay. So basically, in this case, we are adding a single element, but in this case, we are adding two sequence together. That is the difference.
Okay. Can you show me briefly of those syntax in the Scala, like
Yeah. Sure.
side
So
represent?
Scala shell.
No, but I meant like different small syntax like that, like plus plus or different. Because most of the time I only code with Python, so I'm not sure like all of the small syntax that could be like different in the Scala.
No. Sorry, I didn't get you actually. You.
Yeah, so most of the time I code with Python, so I'm not sure like small syntax uh, like a plus and plus plus, like those stuff, like I'm not sure what are these.
Got it. Right. So, okay, I had a little bit of a mistake over here. If there is no colon over here, it's just plus plus.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, I'll explain you once again. So, when you say colon plus, it means that you have to add a single element to a sequence. But let's say you have a use case where you want to join two sequence together, right? So in this case, let's say we have a sequence A where we are having three values, correct? And we have a sequence B where we're having four values, right? Now let's say want to have a third sequence which should have all these values together, correct? So in that case, we can do this, which will give us all the values. Got it?
I have a question. So if instead of this list, we have the matrix, so how would you combine two matrices together in Scala?
So you are talking about a matrix, how to combine two matrices together.
Yes, like in Python, we have like NumPy library or NumPy or Panda library to do that. But I wonder if in Scala, how do we do it?
So mostly in Scala, so when you say matrix, probably that is mostly handled by Spark actually. So if you consider Spark ML library, there are various ways where you can actually handle matrix operations.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay. So have you ever have small experience over Spark ML lib?
Oh, no, not MLlib. I haven't, but you can teach me that if you have experience on that. I haven't explored that library yet.
Okay. Okay, sure. We will explore that as well. Not a problem. So, okay. I mean, before that, we should be more comfortable with data frames and all those things, right? I mean,
Sure, definitely.
yeah. I mean, yeah. If you're talking about NumPy or all those things, I don't think there is a native data structure for Scala to support matrices. Spark supports. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I see.
Okay. Cool. Okay. All right then. For this
Yes.
purpose.
Oh, can I
Yeah.
switch
So
back to my screen so that you can see like how the installation and if there is new?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So it said the build. I'm not sure because here it said like build complete successfully, but here it said SBT task fail. So.
Okay. Let's do one thing. Probably it is because of an error. Can you just click on the terminal thing over here?
Yes. Yeah, here I'll give it to you. You're free to check it out.
Sure. Okay. Okay. That's what I'm not really sure that Windows terminal and Mac's terminal are same. But okay, let's try. Clean compile. Okay. We can use this one. Let's see. Sorry. Okay. Clean. Right. Okay. Compile. Unresolved dependencies. This is not found. 230. Okay. Let's
Yes.
try. Okay. Just a minute. I think the Scala version might be a problem.
Oh, okay, we
Uh,
can change it.
yeah, let's try that. I think 12 should be fine. Okay, something came up.
Which version would you recommend me for Scala?
I think we currently are using 2.11, but 2.12 is also good.
I see.
Okay, let's uh, let's try from here itself. Uh, I'm not really comfortable with Windows
Yeah,
terminal, so
yeah, it's just a terrible situation.
this is really only how do we. Okay, let's start again. Okay, cool. Compile. Let's see. Should work. Is it running or not? I'm not able to understand. Let's see. Here. Mhm. It's actually okay. Cool. This is okay. So Jen, this might take a bit. So this is actually running right now. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So if you see, if I go to build, this guy is saying that it's not able to attend this lock if you print wait.
Wow.
Okay, see, it's waiting for the lock on this. So basically, if you see this IV2, this is the
Mhm.
directory where it will actually go and download the dependencies. Okay. So what is happening is the SBT shell is having the lock over the IV2 right now. So this build is through IntelliJ and it's not able to perform the build. So basically, which means that SBT shell is actually working on it, right?
I
So
see.
let's yeah, for now let's give it some time
Okay.
and you can continue on my shell for now. Okay.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, this actually took around 15 minutes for me
Yes,
depending on the internet connection. So
I see.
yeah,
So I'll stop share and I'll go back to you.
yeah, for Correct. Let's come back to here after maybe 15-20 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll share. Let's stop. Okay. Can you see my intelligence?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's quickly go through. These are some of the notes which I have kept so that we can go through it. And there is a small problem at the end which I wanted to solve, which I wanted you to solve from your side. But let's hope that your intelligence comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's start from this beginning. So if you see, in order to run the Spark, we need something called a Spark conf, or let's call it Spark session. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is, this is the actual main portion. This is the entry point into Spark. So whatever happens after this is using this Spark variable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here you have to see that, consider this point, this particular configuration. Here we are saying that who is the master of Spark. Here actually we mention yarn or whatever resource manager you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this case, we are just simply using local, which means
Mm-hmm.
it's a standalone Spark job over our local machine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, so you are aware about data frames and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So let's also quickly go through this then. So this is the way we read from a file actually. So let's say we have a JSON file. I'll just show you the file quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, So this is our JSON. If you see, every line corresponds to a single record. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, right. So in order to read this file and convert into a data frame, this is the particular piece of code over here. So what we say is, Spark session read what format, and in options you can mention, there are a lot of configurations which you can go through later on. But for now, what I'm saying is, whatever schema it is having, just infer that schema.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what it will do is, if it's a string, then it will infer it as a string. So that way. Okay. So it will have an idea of what data type it is. Okay. And what is the location of my actual file.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So let's run this. I'll do one thing. I'll just command everything. So we'll do one by one. Okay. Now, if you run this, compile.
So you are running the Spark job, right?
Yeah, I'm running this. I mean, ideally, it should not take so long. It
Mm-hmm.
starts in literally 2-3 seconds
Mm-hmm.
only.
Yeah. I have a question. So if you want to read a Excel file, do you still use the same method?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
If you want to read the Excel file, do you still use the same method? Read from file.
Correct. Right. So let's say if you want to read a CSV, actually we'll go through that as well if you
Mm-hmm.
want. So
Yes.
let's say we have a CSV, then we can just mention CSV over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are a particular list of formats which Spark supports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll also give you the documentation link so that you can actually go through it and see what all data sources it supports, what all format it supports. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have
right?
another question. So so for CSV, no, not for
Mhm.
CSV, but for Spark, I thought like it's follow the read on schema. So once the CSV file is read, we have to declare the schema for the CSV file, right?
Okay, yeah. So there are two things to it. So if you see, okay, actually I'll show you over here also. So what happens is, uh, when you read something from a data source, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Scala and Spark together will figure out what kind of data type it is. Okay, now there is a way where we can say that read this file using this schema, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if you see over here, this particular option is there in for schema. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
that, what we can say is use schema, and we can actually put our schema over here.
Ah, I see.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I haven't prepared that part, but yeah, in the next section actually I'll illustrate that as well. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Ah,
so
I see.
I got your point. So actually I think I would be having something. Okay, I haven't made that note, but
That's all
okay.
right. That's all
No, I got your point. So that's a valid point. Actually, I was going to explain that in production cases, what happens is we are not sure that whatever we are reading will come in the correct format or not. Correct.
right. Mm-hmm.
So ideally in production, what we should do is once we read the data, we should actually verify the schema that we have got, or
Mm-hmm.
using the schema itself, you read the data. So that is the two ways which should be used in production.
Ah,
Okay.
I see.
Okay. Now, okay, let's go quickly through this. So now what happens is, okay, if you see it, okay, now we have read the data into this, okay, but right now, until here, nothing has been done by Spark. Why? Because this is called a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are two things in Spark, transformation and action. Until you call an action, Spark will not perform any job,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you see until here, we have given the task to it. Okay, Spark knows from where to read and what to read and how to read, but it has not read a single record until now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now show is basically a action. So when you call an action, whatever transformations has been there for that particular data frame will be called.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What is the, so that is called lazy evaluation, right? So what is
Mm-hmm.
the advantage of it? So let's say you have multiple transformations. Let's say you have 4 to 5 transformations, then you're calling an action, correct? Now what
Mm-hmm.
Spark will do is, this is the part where data frame and data sets have an extra advantage, that it will go through all these transformations and see if there is a redundant step.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have done A to B, B to C, C to D, and Spark sees that A to D is actually the same thing. There's no point of running the jobs from A to B. I'm just giving a very simple example, not a realistic one. But yeah, the Spark engine will actually identify that these steps are actually not required,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it will optimize from A to D and do it in one go. So that is one of the main optimizations which Spark supports. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? So okay, so if you see, let's go to this one. So basically, show is a command to see what is the actual content of a data frame. For this case, let me just increase this one so you can see it better.
Mm-hmm.
Let me run multiple commands actually so that we will save some time. Taking a bit longer. Okay. It's taking a bit longer. Can we use, can I do all these operations over Spark Shell? Actually, that will be a lot faster than this.
Oh, okay. I see.
I actually do that. Okay, let's first go to this.
Ah, okay.
Okay, if you if you see by default, if you do a show over a data frame, it will give you this kind of thing. This
Mm-hmm.
just ignore this done over here. I should have included a print ln over here. That's the mistake I did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you see, the show command will actually show the top 20 rows for the data frame in a truncated format. What is truncated format? If you see, this actual line has more data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it sees that it is exceeding the maximum length of a column, it will just put this ellipsis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in order to read, let's say you want to read only 5 rows, then you can give show 5. So it will, sorry, so it will actually show you just 5 rows. And let's say you want to do you want to see the whole value. Okay, so in that case you can give truncate is equal to false. Okay, so in
Can you
that
tell
case what
me
we're
a little
doing,
bit more about the truncate part?
correct. Okay, so the truncate part is basically, okay, if you do a simple show without passing anything, then okay, let's go through this one. You see this line, right? Chevrolet Chevelle Malibu, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this is a large string. It might happen that in your case, you might be having some string which is more than the visible part of this column.
Mm-hmm.
See this thing. So this is getting truncated.
Mm. What do you mean by truncated?
Oh, okay. Truncated means you are not able to see the full value over here, right?
Oh, okay.
So let's say the string is having maybe 200 characters. Here you're seeing maybe only just 20 characters, right?
Ah,
Let's say you
okay.
want to see the whole value. So you can just pass this particular option.
Ah, okay. Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to show. So basically now this is the non-truncate show. So for this particular command, you are able to see the full value of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
right. Okay, now the part which you're talking about is the print schema. Now every data frame comes with a schema. The main difference between RDD and data frame is the schema. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what happens is a data frame is an array of rows. Now each row should correspond to the schema. Now
Mm-hmm.
for this particular data frame, if you see what is the schema, this is the schema.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in order to see a schema, you can just call the function print schema, data frame dot print schema. It will give you the whole schema of this. Okay. Now, if you see the acceleration is of type double, cylinder is of type long, displacement of type, these all things. So every data frame consists of an array of rows, and each row should be aligned with the given schema. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the main takeaway from what you call data frames.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so the advantage is, let's say if you have worked on RDD can have, you can specify something. Let's say you want to do an addition operation, right? But by mistake, for that column, you would be having some string inside it. And that error you will get to know in the runtime when you run in the production.
Mm-hmm.
If you put a string, okay, where is the schema? Okay, let's see if you put a string in acceleration, the spark here itself, in the compile time, it will tell you that no, this is a string. You have to have a type of double only.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting it, right? You are, you are
Sorry, what is the
getting, you are,
double?
hello?
Yes. What is the double? I'm not sure about this schema.
I think your voice is breaking. I'm not sure who's my internet connection
Sorry.
or your internet connection.
Yes. So I'm not sure what is the double schema. Sorry, I got disconnected. So what is the double schema?
Okay, cool. So, okay, so double schema is nothing but a data type, right? Okay, let me explain in more
Okay.
details. So acceleration, whatever values are present in this particular column should be a double. Whatever values in cylinder should be a long. Whatever values in name should be of type string.
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Yes, I see
Right.
now.
Yeah. So the advantage is, let's say by mistake, someone has kept a string inside acceleration, then in the compile time itself, while writing code only, you'll get to know that this is wrong. Spark will tell you that there is something wrong with this data frame. But that was not possible in RDD. In RDD, everything was an object.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is the advantage of data frame over RDD. Now, what is the difference between a data set and data frame?
Oh,
What
sorry,
happens
I
is,
didn't catch it. Can you say it again? So RDD, everything is an object. So you can have an object that is outside of the schema, right?
correct, that's right, that's right. So when you actually run a transformation over RDD in the production with pipeline, you will get to know that, this is wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
in this case, you while writing code only, if you do some logical mistake that you're putting some string and net, then in the compile time while coding itself, Spark will tell you that, no, this is not allowed. So that's one advantage, right? That
Mm-hmm.
will actually save you a lot of time for debugging and all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the reason that you should always read the one you actually said yourself, that you should always read using the schema or
Mm-hmm.
verify the schema that you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was the part for schema. Okay. Now let's say, so limit is a very simple operation. Like in a data frame, we might have millions of rows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to just take few rows out of it. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
in this card data frame, I have around 400 rows, but out of that, I want to just take 5 rows. Okay, so that's what limit does. If you say val df is equal to val var df
Mm-hmm.
small is equal to this. Now this particular data frame will contain only 5 rows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll just show you this part.
Mm-hmm.
So I right this car. Okay. Let me just get okay. Okay. So let me explain what I've done over here. First, what I've done is I've taken only 5 rows into another data frame. So if you hover over this, you will find this is a type of data set comma row. Okay.
Sorry, you were breaking up. Can you?
And if you, so, okay, let me just quickly run this. Count does. Count is basically, it will tell you how many rows are, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little bit breaking up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
still now it's breaking.
No, it's good.
Okay, cool. So what happens over here is, first what I did is I took only 5 rows out of the car data frame. Okay, and then assigned it to a new variable. Now this variable is of type data frame, or let's say data set of rows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
if you see, what I printed is how many rows are there in this particular data frame. There are only 5 rows. If you see the output
Mm-hmm.
column, output
Mm-hmm.
screen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, out of this 5, I have taken one row and okay, let me do this. Um, okay, I'll explain over here. So what does this take operation? Take operation is basically, it actually converts the data frame into an array of rows. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just write, let's say a new var abc is equal to car dot take of 1. So if you see this, see now what the take does is, I've told you, right, data frame is nothing but it's an actually inside an array of rows, right? So when you say take of a number, let's say a take of 20, or let's say take of 2, so it will just convert the data frame into an array of rows. Okay. Now this thing you can actually use in normal Scala code to just iterate over it the way you did in list.
Sorry. So take two will convert two row in array to array, right?
Right. So, okay. Let me just take two and I'll just print this one so you can have it more clear. Actually, I'll just start the shell because I think this is more easily doable through shell rather than running it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that will be much faster and okay, cool. All right. So let's actually explain your move. Right. Can you see the shell?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I've done is so limit will, let me explain you from the beginning itself. The limit will actually take just 5 rows and assign it to a new variable this. Now this particular variable is of type this, right? This is more detailed and more, so that's why whenever you want to practice, you should actually use shell because it will actually tell you what kind of variable you're getting out of it
Mm-hmm.
always. Okay,
Yes.
right? So now if you see, this is a data set of rows, right? So when you do a take, it will convert from data set to arrays.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay. So let's say I'm saying take of, let's say I just take 2. So if you see, this is now an array of rows, and these are the values you can see, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, I cannot see the bottom of the screen. Could you move up a little?
Okay. Um,
Oh, yes, I can
let
see
me
that.
see.
Yes.
You can see now,
Yes. So it's converted to the array. Yes, I can see.
right?
So,
I'll just
as I remember, arrays is immutable, right?
correct. So now now you can see better.
Yes.
Actually, I'll just okay, right. So now if you see, this is converted into array of values, so array of rows, right? Now let's say you want to access this particular name into a variable. How would you do that? So see, this is an array of rows. If I do, okay, let me just assign this to a variable. Well, let's say rows is equal to this, okay? Or maybe array of rows, fine. Let me do that, it will be easier for you. Array of rows, okay? Now, if I do 0, so, okay, now if you see, this is an array of rows, right? What will this array of rows of 0 will return? Can you tell me?
Array of row 0. So it's return the first row, right?
Correct. So if you see, it will return the first row, right?
Yes.
Correct. So now let's see if you want to access this particular value. Now, what kind of data structure is this? This is also a row, and row is again similar to a list. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to access, let's say, well, this acceleration value, right? What would you do? It's
Uh,
the same thing. Just do 0 and you'll get this. Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So let's say you want to access the value of this particular thing.
So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, right? 0 and 5. Yes.
Correct. Cool. So that's what. Okay. So this was a small thing which I wanted to show. Cool. And this is done. Limit is done. Take, collect. Okay. So now see the take operation whatever the take operation does, there is a similar operation called collect. So collect will actually dump all the rows of a data frame to an array of rows. Okay, so let's say your cars.df is having 406 records. All right. Now, if I do cars.df.collect, it will dump all the rows into a variable. Okay, let me assign a variable. Let's say collected rows is equal to some mistake. That's okay.
I have a question. So when you use val, VAL, and
Yeah.
you use var, VAR, like
Yes, correct.
as practice with.
Sorry, I didn't get to the last part. Can you repeat the last part?
When do you use val and when you use var? Like what would be the best practice to use these?
Okay, so basically, if let's say you have a situation where you want to manipulate the value of the variable, then you should use var. But if you know that your value won't be changed, it will be just used to it will be used in some operation. That's it. Then you should use val. Okay. Now val is more memory efficient than var. I mean, obviously, if there is something hard coded in the memory, then that is definitely more efficient, right?
I see.
Yeah. So that correct. So okay. Now, if you see this particular line, what I've done is I've done a collect function over a data frame, right? Now, this particular variable is of size 406 and it is having all the data, correct? Now, if you do it is the same operation as take, but it takes all the full values over it. Now, this particular thing will give me the third row of the data frame. Okay. Now, there is an important thing over here to note. When you do collect or take this kind of operations, what it does is it brings the whole data. It brings the whole data into the memory of the driver. Okay. So if you know, the Spark is basically consists of executors and driver, right? Now the driver is the mastermind of the Spark, and the executors are the main functions, main nodes which actually do all the operations. Okay. Now this is actually the collect function is actually not recommended for larger data sets because let's say your driver memory is just driver memory is just 4 GB and your data frame is of size 6 GB. In that case, if you do a collect operation, it will give you out of memory error.
I see.
Okay.
Question. So when do you use collect then?
Yeah. So for this kind of cases, let's say there is an operation where you want a particular value of a data frame, such as you want the acceleration of the car called this particular name, right? So what you would do is you will first reduce the size of the data frame to a single row, maybe 2 rows. Then you can call a collect, which will basically hardly few KBs, which is okay.
I see.
Okay, so that is the main use case. That's what I wanted to. Good question.
But you can still use like Spark SQL to get a certain column, right?
Correct. So yeah, using SQL also, the return value will be also a data frame. So again, you have to call a collection. Yeah, data frame can be of type only one column and one row. So basically it's single value, but again, you have to do a collect or a take in order to get that value into a Scala variable. Okay. So, okay. The difference is this kind of, okay, when it is a data frame, it is distributed. It's a distributed data over the nodes, right? You cannot perform Scala operations, let's say plus minus things over that directly.
Oh, so if
right, let's say
data frame, then all the data is distributed.
Yes,
but
correct.
I thought like the whole Spark structure is distributed.
Okay, so okay, let's say this we have a data frame of 400 rows. Okay, now let's say you have 4 executors, or let's say for simplicity we can have 4 machines. So what will happen is what will Spark do is it will distribute 100 rows to each machine.
Oh,
yeah, so that's the main structuring behind it. Now let's say you want to do a sum of all the rows. So what it will do is it will first, now each machine has 100 rows, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The machines will do a sum of their 100 rows and bring it to one value. The second machine will also do a sum of 100 rows and bring it to one value. Then
Mm-hmm.
at the end, you will have 4 different values. The 4 different values, you can gather it to a single machine and add those 4 values,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is the main parallelism you're getting. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing the sum of whole 400 rows in one go, you're actually doing 4 times faster operation, correct?
I see. But if I use RDD or data frame, then that process wouldn't be changing, right? It would be the same that they distributed in 4 machines.
Correct. Yeah. No, see, RDD is a data frame is internally using RDD only. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, so everything is distributed. So if you're using Spark in any sense, if you're using any component of Spark, it is in distributed format only. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that is the main reason that Spark is fast, only because of this distributed computing and parallelism.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Okay. I mean, it will take a little while to get used to these terms and everything. I understand, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's not that tough. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. There's a small another piece of code which I want to tell you. Let's say you have a sequence. Okay. Now, what is a data frame? It's basically an array of rows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do the same operation in opposite format. Till now, what we did is we took the data from a data frame into an array of list. In a similar way, if you see, this is basically a sequence of some values, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, let's say I want to create a data frame with this 864 minus 27 as one column, bat, mouse, and horse as one column,
Mm-hmm.
correct? So basically, whatever we did till now is the exactly opposite thing to that.
Mm-hmm.
See, right? So, show. So this is how you can convert from a sequence of some data into a data frame. Now, what is the use case? Let's say you have some static data, small data like this, right? It can
Mm-hmm.
be, let's say, for your machine learning algorithm. Okay, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Hello? 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 Hello?
Yeah, I just changed my network. Is it better now?
Yes.
Cool. Sorry for that.
That's all right.
Okay. All right. So basically, what we are doing over here is we are converting from a sequence of rows into a data frame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what is the use case that it might happen that you want to join a small data frame with a larger data frame, and you know that the small data frame is stored somewhere. It's very small value, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So in that case, you can actually just simply put these values in your code and just simply create a small data frame, and you can actually use the data frame anywhere you want that
Mm-hmm.
way. Okay. All right. Let's quickly jump to the basic operations.
Oh,
Let's
actually,
quickly.
can we double check on my screen just real quick to see how the install?
Sure. Okay.
See. Yes. So, oh, Built yet? I think it was restarted.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong project.
Okay, it's Hello World 3, right?
Yes, Hello World 3, yes.
Okay. Can you just go to the SBT shell
Yes.
in the bottom? Um, what is it? Still initializing. Okay. New value use the compile the append settings. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but okay, it's completed. Let's see. Control C. Let's go to build. Okay. Success. Okay, cool. So let's try if it's actually working or not. Let's go to source, main. Okay. Why is it not? Just a minute. Main. Scala. No, it's actually an object. Let's say first object. Object. Okay. Let me just copy my code quickly. This particular thing. Okay. Okay. I think mismatch of keyboard shortcuts. Can you just close the this window? Yeah, thanks. I just right click and paste one. Right click.
There's a paste. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if it's imported or not. Correct. Yeah, it's done. Great. 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 Now, actually, what we can just quickly try is the small thing which we tested right now. That is using this small sequence and this. Yes, it should work. Okay. Let's see again.
We can try it on my computer. I have a question though. So every time when we have to create a class for each class, then how do we link like all the class together?
Okay, so that's a basic object-oriented question actually. So see, when you see, if you see this project structure, right? Okay, I'll explain you that as well. Let's run this one quickly. Uh, Run first object. Okay, so how we do that is, if it's an object, so there are two things. One is class and one is object, correct? Now for a class, if you're having a class, then you have to declare it here over here by using a new keyword. Once you get an object of the class, then you can actually call its functions. Actually, I have to. I mean, it's better that I will show you. It's very difficult to explain verbally.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Okay. There are a lot of. I'll just turn off these logs as well. These are not actually useful. Just a minute. I mean, it will be helpful. Every time you're switching to a screen, it's that window is coming. Okay, so I think you have you ever experienced what do you call it object-oriented programming?
Not much because normally I work with like Jupyter notebook, so it's very different.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that's
We
I
can
mean
just run.
so Yeah, something else. Sorry, can you just turn it off?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Paste. Right. If I just do run, let's see what is there here. Okay. I'll tell you the very basic thing of object-oriented programming. So what access anything out of a different file? Okay. You
Mm-hmm.
need to have an object out of that type.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are two things. One is an object and another is a class. When you
Mm-hmm.
declare an object, like here, we have declared it as an object, right? Now you can simply use the functions and variables of this particular file by just saying first object dot something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Similarly, if you have a class and you want to use something out of it, then you have to, in fact, I'll show you right now. Anyways, uh, if you see now this, your Spark has actually worked out. Now, if you see this particular code, which I've shown you before,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you are able to see this data frame in your
Mm-hmm.
output directory. So you can actually practice your Spark things over here. I'll give you the file so that you can try it out. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So you want to see this class thing right now, or
Yes.
maybe sometime later? Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
sometimes later is all right. Next lesson is all right too.
Okay. Okay. I mean, we can do a another session only for that.
Yes.
Actually, I mean, using
Yes.
different functionalities of that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see what is left. Actually, I thought of covering a lot more than this. uh, okay. This is the, okay. Okay, let's jump to, can I share my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So basically what I would expect is you just
Oh, do you
let's
want me to
go
stop
through.
share my screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Can you see the share? Hello?
Yes. Yes, I can see. Hello? Hello, hello?
Hello?
Yes. Hello? Hello? Hello, hello?
Hello? Hi, Jen. You are actually muted. You're on mute.
Yes, I can see your screen now.
Cool, cool. Okay, let's quickly go through very basic operations. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you see this is our cars.data frame, right? I mean, cars DF. All right. Let's say you want to choose only few columns out of it. Okay. Let's say you want to choose the acceleration with the name of the car. So
Uh-huh.
how do you do that? Cars df dot select. Now just mention what all columns you want. Acceleration, comma, string, name, maybe also our country, right? And
Uh-huh.
what is the origin of the country? Correct. So if you see, we got a I mean, it's better to, well, df is equal to this. Now, if I do df dot show, you will find only this three columns out of this. Now, see, this is taking a bit of time because this is an actual transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'm a little bit lost. So how did you drop the other columns?
So, yeah. So, if you see, data frames are also immutable. Whenever
Oh,
we do
okay.
some kind of, yeah. So, whenever we do some kind of transformation, we'll always get a new data frame out of it. So, the
Mm-hmm.
cars.df is never changed.
Ah, okay, I see. Yes,
Got it.
okay, yes. So
So,
I have another question. So what are you doing? Are you using Spark SQL or just Spark data frame?
So this is basically using Spark data frame APIs. Spark SQL is a different one where you can write Spark queries and all those things, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. It should not take so long. Why do you select this? What happened? Stuck. Operation timed out. Should not be the case. Come on. Very weird. This is very small data frame. Should not have caused so much problem. Let me just restart it quickly. Okay, so we'll just by then we'll just go through what are the notes I've made. Okay, so what happens is the select command will basically help you select only few columns out of it and return you a new data frame. Okay, then there is another way of selecting columns. You can either just say the string name of the column, or you can say you can use the keyword called call. Now, what is the advantage for this? You can actually do some mathematical operations with that. Okay. So I'll just show you this particular thing, then it will be more clear. Let's say we have acceleration, right? We want to have another column, let's say, and we want to have the acceleration by 2. So another column should have 12, then other one should have 6, 11.5, then other one should have how much? 5.75 probably. Okay. So that way. So I mean that's a useful operation usually. I'll show you quick. Okay. Started. So you practice all these things. If you have any doubt, you can just ping me on Slack. I'll respond. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
We'll just complete this basic operations. Then we can go to filter operations in the next session probably.
Sure.
Yeah, actually I had a small what do you call it problem set for you, but yeah, we couldn't cover it. That's okay.
Well, you prepared a lot of notes. Thank you so much.
That's all right. I mean, actually, in my company right now, we had a training program before maybe a year or so. So I had those notes, so I took reference from there.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So if you see, let's just quickly see if our data frame is up or not. Good. Now, if I do a select of name, probably capital N, right? If I do this, come on, yeah, good. So now if you see, I have done a select of name and acceleration, correct? And this particular new data frame is just having 2 columns. Okay, right? Now, if you see this particular command, let me just show you.
Oh,
this car from here, what I'm doing is I'm selecting a column called acceleration and a column, the same column acceleration, but by 2. Okay. Now this might throw an error. Okay, this is okay. I mean, we have to import. If you see this, to use this, we have to use this particular thing, import functions.call. Okay. So don't worry about this, because IntelliJ, whenever you are facing an error, you just hover over it and it will tell you what to import. Okay. So IntelliJ is intelligent enough. Okay. So if you see over here, see what we got over here is we got acceleration and acceleration by 2. Okay. Now this name is automatically derived from here. But what if we want to have a particular name of our own? Let's say I want to call it half acceleration, right? So for that, there is something called as alias. And an alias, it's something like this. See, this is our previous operation, correct? Over this, I have just used as. I want this thing with the name of the column as half acceleration. Okay. So this will just give you the simple thing, half acceleration. Okay. Okay. Then the next one is, okay, this is an very useful one. So now if you see car df dot show, okay, now what I want is, I want an extra column over here with this data frame only. I want an extra column over here where I want the summation of acceleration and cylinder. Okay. So basically I should have something, maybe some column where the value should be 20, then 19.5, that way, correct? So for that, what we have this particular function called with column. Now this is, I have used it a lot because sometimes you want to, let's say you want to do some linear regression or something, right? You want to have a new column with using the values of this, correct? So in that case, this particular thing is very useful. So if you see my with column, the name of the column you want to add. So you can add any name over here. So I'm adding just acceleration underscore cylinder. And what is the value you want? This is the value you want. You want the acceleration column plus column cylinders. Okay.
So it's a new column which have the result
Correct.
of these two columns. Okay.
Correct. Now, if you see this, this is the extra column which is having the result. Okay. I'm pretty sure that this is a very useful functionality. I've used a lot in my career. So yeah, this is very pretty much useful. Now, in fact, let's say you want to have a column with the same thing, right? Let's say I just want to repeat my column with the same values. Maybe it might be a use case for you. You can do that as well. Like, see, I did the same as removed everything. Just see, this particular column is same as the first column, correct? There might be a use case that you want to use the same values for something else. So yeah, with a different name, maybe for joining purpose or something. Okay. Yeah. And there's another, okay, two more things. We can rename a column. So if you see cars.dataframe.show, let's say this is a name, right? You want to rename this particular column, then you can just simply use the function. See, data frame with column rename, which column you want to rename and with what name. Okay. So this particular thing was this, it will become this. Now remember, whenever you do this kind of operations, it's always a new data frame. The actual cast or data frame is not getting affected.
Yes.
Okay.
I have questions. So basically,
And
create which column rename. So is the previous column has the name weight in pounds? LBS? LBS? Okay. Okay. Yes.
No, I didn't get you. So even in with column rename, it will just create, it will return your new column with the, sorry, new data frame with the new column. Okay. Now, if you see, this was the previous name. Now this is the new name. Okay.
I have questions. So how do you avoid like memory overload with Spark? Because so far, like every time you create, like every time you
Correct.
create a data frame, you have to like create a new data frame.
Right. Now, the main thing is, usually whenever you have a data frame, so, okay, let me explain it like this. Let's say you have a file in your S3 or maybe in some data storage, right? Let's say your SDFS. Now, Spark doesn't load the whole file into SDFS. Until you call an action, it won't load the whole thing into SDFS, into Spark memory, right? Now, another thing which you have to remember is the Spark model is something, it follows the least recently used. It will evict the old variables which are being not used recently. Okay, so let's say we have 10 data frames and it is able to maybe I accommodate only 5, so it will remove the older data frames from its memory. So that's how it works. Yeah.
That's why you have the catch function where you have to write a certain data frame into catch, right?
So see, even though it removes the data frame, but let's say you want to use the older data frame again, it will have the DAG. Okay, there are a lot of Spark concepts actually. So for every data frame, what Spark does is it creates a graph where it says that, okay, in order to get this data frame, my steps are this, and this. Okay. So let's say we have 10 data frames, and for each data frame, it will have a particular set of steps which it will keep in memory always. Now, let's say the old data frame is evicted and you are calling the old data frame again, it will just repeat those steps.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that is called a DAG operation. That is the main thing. So if you see this particular thing, Spark session, right? This particular thing actually goes through all the declared code over here and sees what is the order of steps I have to follow in order to get all these data frames. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of concepts. So as you work through it, you'll get to know more.
Yeah,
That's
good that
how. Yeah,
I got
even
to know you, so I can ask the questions. Be so
sure,
overloaded. I have to
anything.
read everything.
Yeah, sure, not a problem. I mean, yeah, I mean, actually, there is a different set of what do you call? I mean, we should have different set of sessions only for optimizing Spark, understanding the Spark concepts. I mean, that's also important, I think. But yeah, in order to do that, we should know. I mean, even the Spark documentation also says that we should know the simple syntaxes. We should have some hands-on on Spark before entering into those advanced concepts. Okay.
Sure. I'll leave it for you to plan. You are an expert.
Okay, sure. Okay, I mean, most of things. Okay, one last command. Okay, let's say we have this data frame and I want to draw few columns. Okay, it might be a case that even I face this. A data frame might be having 125 columns or more, right? Now, in order, let's say you want only 120 columns out of this 125 columns. Now you cannot write the whole. It's cumbersome to write the whole set of 120 columns, correct? So what we can do is we can drop off those 5 columns. That's more easier, right? So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 columns. Okay. Now let's say in this particular data frame, I want to drop the last column here. Now, if you see this result 9, show this won't be having the year. Okay.
But I thought
so that's how we can do.
like the data frame is immutable, so they have to create a new data frame, right?
Correct. So okay. So right now, if you see this is a shell thing actually, which is useful. So it's the same thing as doing val. Let's say df is equal to this. Correct. Now see, previously I did not use this thing, so it created a new variable of its own.
Oh, I see.
So this res9 and df is exactly the same.
I see.
Okay. So if you do a df.show also, you get the same result. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll jump into filter in the next session.
Yes. Okay.
I'll just send the whole notes of the Scala and this thing until here. Okay.
Awesome.
So that you can simply practice. And yeah, this data frame thing I have uploaded in the Google Drive, this particular cars.df. So you can practice on it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, I'll just ping you in a while. I'll just prepare the notes and ping you. Okay.
Awesome. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Jane.